So today we are here with Paul from Flattley Guitar Pedals. Hello, Paul.
Hello. Nice to be here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's nice to be here, and it's nice to finally meet you properly, even though we've kind of met in passing at various shows, but today we're getting to know each other. And we're also going to get to know your entire pedal range.
Yes. We're a company based in the UK. We make guitar and bass pedals. It's all analog. It's all handmade. It's boutique. My daughter does the graphics on some of the pedals. Some of the other pedals are hydro dipped. All our pedals come standard with halo light rings and foot toppers as part of the process. And we're just really pleased that everything's made in the UK.
It's everything from the components to the boxes even.
Yeah. So the paint paint jobs are all done in the UK, in Tewkesbury and Peterborough. And the graphics are done in Gloucestershire, so that the UV printed graphics are done in Gloucester. The hydro dipping is done in the paint shop that does the primary paint job, and the plaques are all made in Gloucestershire. The cardboard boxes come from Lincolnshire, and the laser etching on our platinum range knobs is all done by yours truly.
So when you say made in the UK, you really mean made in the UK?
Made in the UK, yeah. They're definitely a different look. We've tried to combine the sonic sounds of pedals along with the artwork, and then from my background being from aviation, I have a big thing about quality control and quality assurance as well. So I can't say that it'll ever always be 100% because you never know when things fail, but we try our best to make sure that when it goes out it's good. And from my aviation background, we have a lot of second checking process as well, so I try and include some of my skill sets from my previous life in aviation is through the pedals as well. So on our silver range pedals and some of our platinum range pedals, my daughter designed the artwork for a lot of her GCSE artwork. So,
wow.
And then from the artwork, they then have to be digitized, and then we can then organize it to sit wherever the drilling template is on the.
Do you have much input in the designs or that kind of thing, or do you just say, this is the pedal, this is the idea?
Yeah, I try to, because I know what I like in my head and the imagery, but I'm not really that adept at drawing it, whereas my daughter is. So I can describe to her and give her a good feel for what we're looking for, and then she comes up with it, and then I can go, oh, I'd like a little bit of this or a little bit of that, less of that or whatever. And then we come to a common ground, and then sometimes the boss jumps in, my wife, and goes, I don't like that whatsoever. So it's all part of the, we're a family-run business, so I always try and engage with all the guys that are part of the process. And sometimes I win, sometimes my daughter wins, sometimes my wife wins, etc. And normally it's because they're right.
Yeah.
So, and depending, all of us look at things from a different perspective on how other people may view it or their needs are and everything. So
there's definitely like a kind of psychedelic look. Does that reflect on your musical interests, or is that just a...
Yeah, it probably does somewhere along the line. I grew up as a child with older brothers and sisters. My parents were working musicians, and they probably came through the psychedelic areas of stuff. So, I grew up with the traditional Grandad rock type of stuff with the Zeppelins and the Creams, Free, Bad Company, all that stuff, which I love. My own personal thing is in the 80s with the indie rock, so The Cure, The Cult, those type of bands. So I get a lot of my sonic sounds from those eras as well, hence why some of our products are from the vintage style from that era.
So we've got 13 pedals here, which is the entire collection at the moment, the entire range.
Yeah, that's correct. Right? There is one more, which is not on the board, but we make two versions of a Klon. Graphics are different predominantly, so there's no two Klons on this board, but this is predominantly all our pedals from the platinum range and the silver range that we do. So we come in first, the board comes to the Wah pedal first of all, and then runs through into the DG Fuzz, which is our Gilmour-inspired fuzz, and got Guitarist Choice Award earlier this year in Guitarist magazine, so we're very happy with that. We then run into the Solaris Pro, which is a 2-gain stage fuzz, so it's a big boy's fuzz, big sounding. It has a booster on there as well, which gives you an audio boost, but puts overdrive over the top of fuzz as well, so it really tightens it up and it cuts through the mix, so it still remains articulate.
I think I've heard a lot about this pedal. Is this the one Lewis really likes? Lewis from LT Custom Guitars is a huge fan of this pedal.
Yeah, that's the one that Lewis has on his demo board. So then we run into the Poison Ivy, which is an octave harmonic fuzz, so it's like a late 60s, early 70s super fuzz. We've managed to take out some of the unwanted noise as well out of there, so it makes it sort of quite nice to listen to, as they were a bit temperamental back in the day. We then run into the Revolution, which is the dynamic overdrive, so it's 3-in-1 overdrive. This also got Guitarist Choice Award back in the magazine in August 2021, and then went on to win Gear of the Year in the magazine in January 22. It's a 3-in-1 overdrive. It runs through an op amp in the middle position, forward switch silicon diode, which is a nice compressed overdrive and silky smooth. Then in the switch in the rear position, it runs through LED diodes. So that's more of a Marshall type tone of how they got their overdrive decades ago. It then runs into the Plexstar, which is a JTM 45 style amp in a box. It has a switch on there, which is a bass boost. So that's like patching out channel A and B of your Plexi style amp. We then have the Centurion in the Platinum range here, which is our version of the Klon style circuit. Then we have the Ace, which is a clean tone booster. It does clean boost, it does tonal control, or it does both together, depending how you set it up. I find that you get the best out of the audio boost when you put it after the dirt pedals, but you can put it before dirt pedals as well. And if you run it after the dirt pedals with low amount of boost into the modulation, it really makes them sparkle without them actually breaking up. Then we get into the modulation side of the board. So onto the top there, we have the Star Phaser, which is a 4-stage analog phaser. Then into the Violet, which is a tremolo pedal that has a switch on it as well, which gives you a triangle wave in the forward position. In the rear position, it's a square wave, so that sounds a little bit more choppy. So you get two different variants of tremolo in there. Then we have the Crazy Diamond on the top there, which is our Univibe pedal. That's a really nice popular pedal now. I think Univibe is becoming quite
definitely in the last few years it's really sort of come back in fashion.
Yes, and then on the bottom in the blue burst there, we have our Valkyrie vintage chorus, which was only released about 2 months ago. So now we can get the Bucket Brigade chips that are modelled on the old ones to be able to get that vintage chorus sound, where you can still buy obsolete ones, but unfortunately they're not reliable. So product confidence wouldn't be there, because you never know if they're going to last 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 weeks, whatever, before they give up, and they're very expensive. So thanks to Cool Audio for remanufacturing the old Bucket Brigade chips for that era. And then last but not least, on the end, we have our analog delay, which is called the Nirvana. 4 controls, so we have an additional tonal control on there, which is the tone of the delay rather than colouring the tone of your pedal board.
And so, we're using a clean pedal platform based amp. It's made by Brelliot. It's John Brelliot's version of just a really sort of kind of clean amp that takes pedals really well, doesn't really colour it in any major kind of way, so it really lets the pedals shine through. So hopefully from what you'll be hearing will be the most true kind of version of the sounds. So first of all, on the board we've got the Wah pedal, which is called the
Wah pedal, funnily enough. Okay, so it's a twin T resonant filter style Wah, so it's not like a conventional Crybaby or Clyde McCoy style, which have halo inductors and red and yellow phasals. This is done by transistors, capacitors, resistors inside. So it has a bass range, it has a mid range and a treble range. The way that the suite works is very smooth. It works in a very radial way. It's very articulate. It's brilliant on the clean channel for doing really tight funk and stuff like that. So it's amazing. In terms of the way that it works, that you can have it switched on, hence the blue light plate is on, but you can leave the top plate toe down, as they say. So the Wah is on, but the Wah function is actually off. So you have straight through signal. So you don't conventionally have to switch it on and off if you don't want to. You can if you want, but you don't have to. You can leave it on just like this, as we've been demonstrating through all these videos. The eagle-eyed people out there will see that blue light plate has been on and it's not affecting the tone of your guitar.
I think I might have mentioned this already, but if I haven't, do you want to tell us a little bit more about the light plate and the hydro dipping process as well?
Sure. So the light plate works so that you can see it's on and off, but it does a secondary function. So whether it's on your board or sat off your board on the floor, what it does is it gives you horizontal light in this way. So on a dark stage, it will give you some situational awareness of where the board is and things are. So it's a real big help in that way. In terms of the graphics, so this pedal is hydro dipped in what we call the oil slick graphics. Each individual piece that is dipped never dips in exactly the same way. So each wah that goes out is unique, okay, in the graphics, in the oil slick graphics. So again, visually, it's artwork. It makes it look nice. Traditionally, wahs have either been white, chrome, black, whatever. So ours is just a little bit different. And like I say, at the beginning of of Flattley, we wanted to combine sonic sounds with the quality and give the functionality that we do with the foot toppers and the halo rings, etc., but also a little bit of artwork as well on the pedal board.
So this is the DG Fuzz. Can you tell me a bit more about the DG Fuzz?
Yeah, sure. So it's styled on a Gilmour style fuzz of his 60s and 70s type of fuzzes that he used. It has an internal buffer in there, so you can place it anywhere you like in the signal chain without it causing unwanted noises, which fuzz have a nasty habit of doing. The tone control has got a very wide bass to treble range, so you can really give it a big fat hand to still remain the articulation of the fuzz actually coming through. It also has a grunt control in it, which injects a bass frequency before the fuzz. So it gives it an extra sonic dimension where you can make this pedal sound like a big muff style big fuzz, but still retain the articulation of the fuzz, and you can come through the mix with it all. Okay, which sometimes with muff style pedals, the sound is big with a lot of sustain, but when you add more sound to it, it goes this way rather than coming through this way in the sound. So that's it's quite an important thing. I mean, I love the sound of a muff pedal because it's got the sustain on it. I have bad guitar technique, so it hides a lot of sins there. So, but it's good. But yeah, so it's quite versatile as well. So you can get the 60s thin fuzz sound out of it. You can get a really good fuzz face sounding out of it, silicon fuzz face, I should say. Without all the unwanted noise taken out of it. And then, like I say, the fact of the versatility of having it any way you want in the signal chain. So in this particular, we've got wah, then fuzz. Okay, so lots of fuzzes, you have to have fuzz, then wah, because of the interactions don't go so well and they make unwanted noises.
So next up, we've got the Solaris Pro. Do you want to tell me a bit more about this pedal?
Yeah, sure. So the Solaris Pro is a 2-gain stage fuzz, and it also has a boost function on it. So the fuzz inside the pedal is set to max. The sustain control on the pedal increases or decreases the amount of gain on the fuzz. Okay, so it's quite a big sounding fuzz. Yeah. It's very articulate, and it cuts through the mix. Because the fuzz is set to max initially, if you roll the sustain down to off, then what you'll get is more of a fuzzy overdrive. The boost switch gives you an audio boost, but also actually puts overdrive over the top of fuzz, so that then that really sharpens up and it comes through the mix. So if you want to, you can play with the boost on all the time, with the volume rolled down to get that big fuzz sound with sustain and everything else coming through the mix, which is quite important in the band situation. One of the other things is with the sustain control wound back, you can give it a little bit, still retaining the fuzzy overdrive, then engage with the boost switch, putting overdrive over the top of overdrive fuzz, and you actually get a big, slightly fuzzy overdrive sound. Yeah. It's really quite versatile.
So this pedal here is the Poison Ivy, and I really love the artwork for this one.
Thank you.
It looks really cool. So yeah, tell us a bit about the Poison Ivy.
Okay, so the Poison Ivy is an octave harmonic fuzz. It's styled on late 60s, early 70s super fuzz style. We've managed to take some of the unwanted noise out of there because manufacturing techniques have got a lot better since then, and components. So it's made it, to me, a lot more usable if you're one of those types of people that doesn't like the ancillary noise that you get sometimes. Yeah. Some people love it, some people don't. It has a switch on there as well, which in one position it scoops out the mids as well, so it becomes quite thin and quite raspy. With the switch in the forward position, it's quite a big sound, but again, still quite raspy and thin. So it works well for the drop tunings like currently that your guitar is tuned in as well. So it gives it a real big fat sound, but also quite, usable. So what we have next is the Revolution. It's dynamic overdrive, three overdrives in one. This is my personal favourite because it captures the tones for me of the indie 80s rock sort of scene. It runs through an op amp in the middle position. Forward, it runs through silicon diode, so you get a really nice compressed, smooth overdrive. Then in the rear position, it runs through LED diodes. It's quite reactive, so if you push, it gives. If you relax, it backs off. And it has some transparency in it, so when you start rolling your volume down on there, it cleans up a little bit as well. So it really is dynamic in the fact that it's 3 in 1, and it's dynamic for the way that it works as well.
So with the silicon mode, it'll there'll be a drop in volume as there will be with any kind of...
Yeah, that's because the silicon diodes take more voltage before they start to clip. So the voltage comes from the volume pot in this instance on this circuit.
So you just compensate by bringing up the volume of the pedal a little bit more.
That's correct. And I don't think it's something that you would want to change through midway, which is why it's on a toggle switch as opposed to on a foot switch. Okay.
So next up, we've got the Plexstar.
So it's like a JTM 45 amp style in a box, and it means you can get it into overdrive without your ears bleeding, because literally the plexes were exceptionally loud before the overdrive started getting to enough where you could use it as the overdrive tone.
So you can get those JTM kind of sounds at bedroom volume, pretty much.
Correct, yeah.
Or even at band volume, because realistically these days you're not going to get a JTM cranked up in most venues unless you're not going to play that venue.
Yeah. And it also has a boost switch on it. So that's like when you patch out channel A and B on your Plexi, and it gives it a big fatter sound, which is quite nice as well.
It had loads more gain than I was expecting. Love that.
The halfway through there, we put the switch into bass boost mode, so the patch channel limit.
Great.
It fattened it up without killing it, basically. In that shell. So
you could hear it, it's a lot fatter, but it's the kind of sound that will still work well in a mix.
Yeah, most definitely, and it works. It works well in front of an amp that's driven as well to give it extra edge.
Okay.
Plus the fact as well, you could use the boost on top of the Plexi to get even more cut through.
You'll love that. So next up on the board is the Centurion, which is your take on a Klon, but transparent overdrive sort of thing. So yeah, tell us a bit about the Centurion.
We've made our changes to it by a few components on the inside to try and make certain power supplies not cause any unwanted issues and stuff, and give it a little bit more of a fat sounding sparkle to the buffer side of the element. Again, everything else is still same as the Klon with the germanium diodes in there, and the same boost IC that's in there as well.
So this style of pedal, was that quite known to sort of be a bit picky about the power supplies that it uses?
It can be, because it comes from the era that it was originally designed, and power supplies have moved on now. So you've got different types of powers. You've got switch mode and you've got your isolated. So we're currently running on an isolated power supply on this particular board, which is great. Some of the cheaper end of the power supplies that you can buy that are 9 volt, they physically work, but sometimes they generate unwanted noise. Sometimes the 760 chip inside doesn't work the boost function because it's not getting quite the right power supply in there. So they can be quite funny. And our products take 9 volts. So if you stick 12 volts in there, you'd be sending it back to me for repair. So you just have to be quite careful. Whereas I think the original ones that did have maybe had some function in there where they did something with the 18 volts power supply in there, I think, but I wouldn't want to take that as.
So if you've got a Klon at home, just plug it in, let us know what happens.
yeah, of course.
I think power supplies is one of those things that you just don't want to skimp on, do you? But especially when you're playing live or in the studio, it's a boring purchase, but
yeah, it's a boring purchase, but it's quite important. And also, sometimes it can depend on the electrics in the building that you're in. So that, sometimes you'll get this noise that sounds like somebody with a pneumatic drill about 10 miles away in the distance. And that can be caused by like really old electrics, and it just generates unwanted. So some of the more modern power supplies with the isolated will drown out this sort of stuff, and it'll compensate for it. Likewise, because they're isolated, it stops feedback from like delay line chips and things like an LFO circuits feeding back and causing unwanted noises in the circuit, particularly if you're daisy chaining your products as well.
So next up on the board, we've got the Ace, which is a clean boost pedal that Paul makes. Can you tell us a bit about this pedal?
Yeah, sure. So it's a clean tone booster. It gives you clean boost, so it doesn't add any dirt if you're on a dirt channel.
So you say clean boost is like just overall kind of volume?
Yeah, but it's clean. It doesn't add any more clipping to your dirt sound if you're using dirt sound. The tone control is basically the tone stack from the Solaris Pro. So again, the tone control will tone the whole of your rig as well. So you can set it more bass, more treble, mid-range, wherever you want. When you engage the boost with it as well, you can either just have it as boost and put the tone to sort of like a unity tone so that you're just getting clean boost if you're soloing it, etc. Or you can put more boost into it and then set the tone control, whether you want to bass more bass frequencies or more treble frequencies or in the mid-range. It's also nice to have it in the signal chain after the dirt sounds because you get the maximum amount of the audio lift in it.
So if you want to boost the solo or like a riff, or just if you've got like a guitar part that you really want to stand out more in a mix, in a live mix, that would be the way to run this pedal.
Yeah. But you can have it before the dirt pedals, and it does something similar, but it changes the sound slightly. Not adds more dirt, but you get different tones from it, from the tone side of the pedal.
And each of these controls has like a point where it becomes sort of unity gain.
Yeah, so halfway point, unity gain on the volume side, and halfway unity tone on the tone side. If you run a low amount of boost on the pedal as well into the modulation side, it really makes them sparkle and sing without clipping. It's also fair to note that you could use it on an acoustic guitar as well. So it will make the acoustic guitar, particularly if you're using an acoustic guitar that doesn't have a preamp on it, etc., with the graphics side, it will give that a real big uplift, and it will make it sound very punchy and articulate, like you're maybe finger picking with that sort of metallic sound that you get from the strings. Really, really, very, very nice.
So if you've got like an overdrive sound or pedal that you really like the sound of, but you just want a bit more, a pedal like this would be ideal to run in front of it.
Yeah, definitely, because it'll cut through the mix. It won't add any more dirt to that overdriven or fuzz sound that you've got. And it works well in front of overdrive and fuzz type bass pedals. It doesn't really particularly like either one of them in favour. It just works really, really great in front of them and gives you boost. Using it as a tonal control as well is also very effective as well, so because it will do the whole of the rig. So even if you're just going straight through the amp and you don't use pedals as such, even putting that in front of the amp, it will give you an additional tonal control in front of the amp, so you can make your Strat guitar sound like a Les Paul by boosting the bass frequencies, and make your Les Paul sound more like a Strat sound by boosting the treble frequencies. It's really, really versatile.
That's really interesting because it's such a simple looking pedal, but by the sounds of it, it's almost like it's a bit of a Swiss Army knife pedal.
Yeah.
Especially if you're like, you know, you're a touring musician or you play live a lot and you use house amps and you're not sure what you're going to get. You can really like tailor your sounds to whatever it is you've been given or that kind of situation.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at this pedal, I look at it not as a primary pedal, but I look at it as an enhancement pedal, okay, to any rig. You know, it's great. It'll slide in anywhere you want it to, really, but it enhances. So it's not really a primary pedal like an Overdrive or a Fuzz, it's an enhancer.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are sort of, when they try it out at the guitar shows, are actually seeing this. And we do a bass version as well. And the bass player guys are so taken with it because it makes the bass become more punchy and articulate that it's really, really nice that it comes over very well.
So if you've got a rig that you love and you want it to sound better, buy this. So next on the board, we've got the Star Phaser, which, funnily enough, is a phaser.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about this pedal.
Okay, so the Star Phaser is a 4-stage phaser. 2 controls, rate and depth, very simple to use, and gives you a really nice, lovely, warm phasering sound.
And for people that don't get the 2-stage, 4-stage, what does that really mean?
It depends on how crazy you want your phaser to be. So, like, you know, you can get the Moog phaser, which I think was 12 stages. So it's got a lot of range in there in the different sort of phasing effects that you can get from it. So the 4-stage phaser is quite a nice, versatile phaser pedal. Today it's sat in front of the dirt sound because of the way the signal chain is and we use for demonstrating at shows. Some people that like to run the phaser with dirt sounds like to have the phaser first and then the dirt sound. So it's more personal choice.
Yeah. So this is the Crazy Diamond pedal, which is like a Univibe sort of effect.
So yeah, it's quite easy to use. It does a nice Univibe. It's in a nice small box as well, so its footprint on the pedal board is quite nice. It's done with LDRs and LEDs as opposed to a traditional Univibe, which is done with a similar way, but with bigger bulbs and stuff to get the Univibe in the traditional way. But people obviously want real estate on their pedal boards now, so we've squeezed it in, and the Crazy Diamond is a take on certain elements of Univibe and the naming, and some great artwork by my daughter.
Inspired by a very litigious band, so don't expect any riffs from that band because we will be demonetized instantly. So, but yeah, okay, let's check it out. So this cool purple pedal is the violet pedal, and that's a tremolo with a couple of different modes on it.
Yeah, it is. So it's a harmonic tremolo, and the switch on there in the forward position does triangle mode, and then in the rear position it does square wave mode. So that gives it a more choppy, harsher edge. Triangle's a bit more smoother.
What's the difference between harmonic tremolo and just standard tremolo?
I think it's just a lot of the way that it's made, because you've got tremolo from amps as well that was part of it, that was built into amps. And then with the harmonic side of things, this is done predominantly with traditional resistors, transistors, capacitors, etc., whereas other style tremolos are done by optocouplers. Okay, so it's a different way of doing it. So you've got your rate and depth, and then the volume control on there. So tremolos specifically were always kind of like low in volume, so we've tried to put something in there to give it a little bit of uplift in the volume, so that it comes through and doesn't then sort of lower the line level on the board. The rate and depth is just basically, the rate controls the LFO circuit inside it to give it a bit more speed or slow it down, and the depth just fattens up the sound of it and gives it a bit more warmth and a fuller sound.
Next up on the board is one of my favourite effects, a chorus, and this one is called the Valkyrie.
This is a vintage style chorus. It's voiced around a sort of early 80s style. There's a company now that's restarted remanufacturing the Bucket Brigade chip, so that's why we can make it and make it sustainable and keep the cost down. It's a beautiful pedal. The rate control, small movements make big changes. So you can get a beautiful crystal chorus, deep lush chorus. Then you start getting into sort of that organ-y Leslie sort of sound, and then you start going into the territory of the vibrato. So it's got a really big range on this, more than a standard chorus of that era. Okay, so the Nirvana is an analog delay that max chat is around about 620 milliseconds, okay, in terms of the delay time. It's got 4 controls with the usual suspects of delay, volume, that's volume of the delay effect, and repeats. Then it has a tone control, so this is the tone control of the delay effects as well. So it gives it some real nice ambience in there, and you can actually hear some of the tails from the delay as well, really accentuated. Gives it a really nice warm sound. It's not harsh, which is really good. It's very, very usable as well, and it sits really nice in the mix with all your other pedals.
Cool. So I'll do a bit of playing, but when I'm playing, I reckon just throw in a few pedals like we did earlier because we were getting some really cool sounds. So we'll start off with just the delay into the clean sound, but gradually Paul will just throw in a few extra pedals for a bit of extra fun.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Paul, for helping me understand the range of pedals, and thank you so much for watching. To do a bit of an outro, we're going to just run through all of the pedals, switching them in and out, just playing, and hopefully let me know what you think down below. Obviously, I'll be putting all the links in the description to Flattley's pedals, and let me know what you think and what one you would buy.